Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Lindbergh Select Board on Tuesday, September the 6th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lindbergh Public Access channel on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page and will be uploaded to the Lindbergh Access YouTube after the meeting. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. At this time, I want to ask for any public comments this evening from the board. Any public comments?
I have one public comment. I'd like to wish my wife a happy 48th birthday.
A daring man.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jack.
Yes, Mr. Franco.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it being election day, I just wanted to say I had occasion to drive through town a couple different times today, and I was heartened to see cars flowing in and out of the polls. And, you know, I want to thank all the people that make democracy run. That's the poll workers, the registrars of voters, town clerk, campaign supporters, people out there holding the signs in this weather for all campaigns, the voters and the candidates. You know, it's a belief of mine that I believe in robust democracy, and it's a phrase I've coined a long time ago, and I always say it. I think that every seat at every level should be contested every time. Now, we don't meet that ideal all the time, but it is the ideal. And there's nothing self-sustaining about democracy, not at all. And what sustains it is vigilance and participation. So thank you to all who don't take it for granted, because it isn't granted.
Thank you, Mr. Franco, for those comments.
I'm assuming you're going to announce the polls, right?
I will.
Okay.
Yep. Any public comments this evening from the public? Seeing none. For announcements, the announcement we have is that polls are open. They're open until 8 o'clock, so if you're at home tuning in and watching us, we encourage you to head out to the polls if you haven't done so already. Again, it's at TC Passios as usual, and the polls are going to be open for another 55 minutes or so here till 8 o'clock p.m. this evening.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Only because we're talking about elections, and I realize I'm taking this out of order, should be under action items, but I had brought to the attention, I guess, last election, it was brought to my attention, I brought it to the board, and I'll do that again, that on the exit from TC Passios is a really bad hole on the sidewalk. And I know we were between DPW directors and the facility director, but I'll bring it up now that should be patched. Right now they had cones around it, because the last thing they wanted was somebody to go vote and then trip or turn an ankle in the hole in the sidewalk. So I just wanted to mention that while we were talking about elections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, communications from other boards. So there was, I'll bring this up under a little later in the agenda tonight when we talk about committee reports. So there was a communication from the Municipal Building Design Committee. It didn't really come to us, but it went to Heather, and then also as town manager, and then also to the superintendent of schools. And that was regarding the use of storage space. And again, I'll give that in the committee report, but the gist of the communication was identifying that the Municipal Building Design Committee has decided, they issued us a position paper that we are taking the position that all permutations of plans will minimize long-term storage capacity. And so the encouragement was to the town manager, who we understand is already undertaking this effort as approved at town meeting, and also to the superintendent of schools, just to advise, ask them to reevaluate their long-term storage space requests and submit revised proposals with explanation for why remaining items cannot be put in digitized or put in off-site storage. But again, I'll mention that in more detail at the committee report. Do we have any other? We also had a communication that came in from the Water District. And so this was a request from the Water District, which is why they're on the agenda tonight. We had a request from the Water District to meet with us this evening to present, have a presentation with Ty and Bond, which is an engineering, environmental type company, on the reactivation of the Hickory Hills well. And so that's coming up in the agenda a little later on this evening at 7:30. Any other communications from boards or committees?
The board received a communication from the
That's
APDC
correct.
that I forwarded to, because it was sent to an incorrect email address for each of you, so it was forwarded.
And was it from the APDC and not just from
Sorry, it was from.
The chair.
No,
vice chair?
vice chair.
Oh, it was from the vice chair.
Okay.
Was it a
I've yet
record?
to confirm whether it's a representation from the
Okay.
committee.
Okay. All right. And we're going to move to our appointments this evening. We'll go ahead to the 7:10 appointment, the one-day wine and beer license for St. Boniface Parish on September the 17th. If you wouldn't mind coming forward, stating your name as if we don't already know both of you, and again, why you're here this evening. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jamie Toll from Peninsula Drive. I'm here tonight representing St. Boniface Parish and the Knights of Columbus. This is Tom Bodkin. He's the Deputy Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus at St. Boniface. We plan to resume an annual event. It's been on temporary hold due to the pandemic, and we're scheduled to have our Oktoberfest at St. Boniface on Saturday, September 17th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we're here requesting a one-day beer and wine license for that event, as we have in the past. I believe all the paperwork has been submitted, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, always a pleasure to see you, Mr. Toll.
Thank you.
To the town manager, any concerns about the paperwork as submitted?
None.
Any questions from the members of the board?
No, but I just wanted to make it clear that I am a member of the parish of St. Boniface. So, just so
You
you
can
know.
vote twice, then.
Yes, I know. And I will be attending this event as well.
Confirming everyone's suspicion, everybody.
Good as 10 Hail Marys.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Chair,
DeLaire.
I just wanted to make a comment. After reviewing the application, I thought it was exceptionally well put together and complete, and it's one of those applications that, for future applicants, we may hold out as an example of what a complete application would look like.
I would agree with that. And
Yeah, compared to the last one.
I also want to point out to the applicants that it is Oktoberfest, like it's really in the name. So
Yep.
September 17th, I'm assuming is a phase of the moon kind of thing, but otherwise I have no questions, and everything here seems perfectly in order. It's, again, an event that has happened annually until the pandemic, so I'm just glad to see it coming back.
No questions. And again, thank you both for representing St. Boniface, an important part of our community. And this is, as Mr. Alonso noted, is an event that has a lot of history here. So we appreciate that its continuation. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the request for the wine and beer license for St. Boniface Parish on September 17th.
Second?
Any additional discussion? As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes. So we will sign this a little later in the meeting, and then please check in with the town manager's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a note that Lane, who handles the application, was very helpful, and everybody here was very helpful.
Excellent, thank you.
Everyone's invited.
Thank you. All right, and so our 7:20, a toll booth fundraiser request from the Lindbergh Boys and Girls Club on September the 17th. And again, no stranger to us, but please say your name and why you're here this evening.
Good evening. My name is Gary Janot. I'm chairman of the board of directors for the Lindbergh Boys and Girls Club. I'm here to seek approval for our biannual toll. We do one in the spring, we do one in the fall. The one that was approved in the spring did very well. We had quite a bit of traffic, and far exceeded what our goal was. This is to benefit those who can't afford to go to the club or the summer camps. We consider it's like part of our scholarship program. So we assist families in need and make sure that, it's kind of those no child left behind. Anyone that wants to go to the club will go to the club.
Excellent.
We give them the opportunity. So we're seeking approval for our biannual on September 17th from 9 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon.
All right. And to the town manager, any concerns about the application?
No.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
Nope.
No.
I don't have any questions either. This is a very straightforward request. As you
Yep.
said, you do this twice a year. This is, community's way of being supportive in those passing through. And you have the extra benefit this year of the same day as the St. Boniface event.
Yes.
Although I think that's a little later, but hopefully there'll be good traffic coming through to
Yep. And also, again, you're all invited to drive by.
On your way to
make some
Oktoberfest.
money like last time. All right. Is there a motion to approve the request for the toll fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club on September the 17th?
I would move that we approve the Boys and Girls Club request for a voluntary toll booth on September 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., I'm assuming just at Town Center?
Yes. Yep.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? All right. As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion passes. So congratulations. And I think the next step in this is, do we have to sign this? Is that correct?
No. You just touch base with Elaine.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Mr.
So we
Chair, if I
reached
may-
out to all the DPW and everybody,
Yeah.
let it notified everyone, the police and chief and everyone. And we'll have our wonderful vests on and our very fluorescent shirts.
As required, and we will make a point to announce this next week to remind the public as well.
Well, thank you
This
very
is
much.
happening. Yes.
If I may ask the applicant if people were interested in helping volunteer for the toll booth, do you have a place for them to sign up?
There's a Sign Up Genius. It'd be on the Boys and Girls Club Facebook page. I believe Michelle posted it, I want to say earlier this week. So there's a Sign Up Genius link that you could click right onto it on their Facebook page.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Have a good evening.
All right. So we are a little early for our 7:30, so we will come back to that. Let's go ahead and move to interviews, appointments, reappointments. Do we have, why don't we start with where you're at? Nope, conservation. Okay, so this is a request coming from, we have an open position on the Conservation Commission, and so we're seeking to fill this position, the terms to expire June 30th, 2024. And we have applicant Richard Trimbley, who has presented himself as being available for this vacancy. So we will call for an interview with Mr. Trimbley at this time.
I recall he was in front of us already.
You recall correctly.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind stepping forward, stating your name, although I've already identified it, but stating your name, your history with the Conservation Commission, and your interest in becoming a member of the Conservation Commission.
Good evening. My name is Richard Tremblay, 386 Sunset Lane in Lunenburg. I have been a full-time resident of Lunenburg for the past 36 years. I have a great appreciation for the outdoors. I like almost anything to do with it, hiking, backpacking, swimming, boating, you name it. I was a scoutmaster here in town for several years, taught scouts basic skills, outdoor skills, and I worked in the field of public safety. I'm retired now, and I would like to give back to my community. I have been an associate Conservation Commission member for the last 8 months. I've been attending meetings, site walks. I have reviewed the town's bylaws in this area, as well as the state CMRs, and I've been taking training courses with the Massachusetts Conservation Commission website online. Being a full member of the Conservation Commission is something that I really would like to do, and I want to thank the board for their time in seeing me this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you for applying for this vacancy. Thank you for serving as an associate member on the commission. And I'll open up to the board for any questions. or comments?
Well, I'm just glad that he was still interested, even though we didn't appoint him last time. So thank you for stepping up again this time.
Okay.
My only comments are based on the last time you were before the board, as well as the comments from from the current Conservation Commission members in support of your appointment and recognition of the work you've done as an associate member, which seems to you put in as much or more effort than almost any member on the commission. I don't have any hesitation at all with supporting your appointment. So thank you for
Thank you.
volunteering.
I'll just echo what my colleague said, and thank you, and add my own thank you for your serving on it.
I will just add that when we had that whole slate of candidates before us for the Conservation Commission earlier in the year, and we didn't have enough seats for everybody, I said we were very blessed to have so many talented people, and I said people, if they stuck with it, would certainly the openings would happen. I'm glad to see Mr. Tremblay is still interested, as was said, and he's obviously very highly qualified, has been motivated as an associate member for many years, and I couldn't be happier to support him in his candidacy today.
Thank you.
You come highly recommended by other members of the Conservation Commission. I'm also excited and happy that you decided to seek the full membership. It seems as though that all the reports we've received are that you've been fully engaged throughout this process of being an associate member. I do have a question for you. One of the things that's come up as of late on the Conservation Commission previous years is policies and rules around hunting. So I'm broadly asking you if you have any perspective on that.
Hunting on conservation land?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think there's a blanket answer for that. Now, I'm the new guy, obviously, if I'm appointed this evening, I'm the rookie, so I don't have the experience that my associates do. But I think that maybe it needs to be looked at on a case-by-case basis and know where they are. I mean, anything next to houses or homes or to put anybody in danger, should we allow any form of hunting to take place on conservation property?
I concur. With that, is there so after a motion to appoint and it is approved, the next steps in the process would be to meet with the town clerk and get sworn in. And then she will advise you of open meeting law trainings, conflict of interest trainings, if you haven't already completed those. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Tremblay to the Conservation Commission to a term to expire June 30th, 2024?
I move to appoint Richard Tremblay as a full voting member of the Conservation Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, look at that, eager seconds. All right, any additional discussion on this appointment? As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. So please check in with the town clerk at your earliest convenience to get sworn in and prior to the next conservation meeting.
Very good.
And
Thank
take
you.
associate away from your name.
Yeah.
Cross
So
that line.
congratulations.
Just cross it off.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I'm going to, although I see that members from Ty and Bond and the Water District are here, I'm going to just wait till 7:30, as that was the posted time in case there's members of the public who wish to join in with us at that time. So if you wouldn't mind just hanging tight. Good to see you guys, though. Next, we'll continue with appointments from the town manager. This is ratification of the town manager's appointments for the heavy equipment operator and also for the mill site manager. And to the town manager, if you wouldn't mind presenting these appointments for the board's consideration.
Certainly. The first appointment, I'll take them individually, is for the heavy equipment operator position. I'm asking the board to ratify Eric Babin as the newest heavy equipment operator. As the board knows, I've announced we've had multiple vacancies, 3 for that position. It's historically been a hard position to fill due to the CDL requirements for being a heavy equipment operator, especially due to the federal changes for that license. Eric comes to us from Waste Management, and he's been there since 2006. He has his CDL B license as well as his 2A and 1C hoisting licenses. And at Waste Management, he has had many hats, including their safety leader, He's been the lead management person for their trucks there, their lead driver. And he also, when he worked, when Waste Management was in Lunenburg, he was on that route. So he's also familiar with our roads as well. So that's an added benefit. His references describe him as someone with a very positive attitude, and that I personally, when I met with him, I see that right away. He is very enthusiastic and can't wait to join the team. So this recommendation also comes from the DPW and the highway superintendent as well, endorsing this.
Is this Babin related to the Babin landscaping or different Babins?
I don't know. That's not part of his
Okay, it's
history.
not part of his background.
Yeah.
Are there any questions to the town manager related to the appointment for the heavy equipment operator? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the ratify the town manager's appointment of heavy equipment operator Eric Babin.
Second.
Any additional discussion on this? As many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes. Eric is ratified.
Thank you.
His appointment, rather, is
There'll be
ratified.
one more next week. So.
Excellent. And Pamela?
And Pamela. For the meal site manager position, as the board knows, this position was reclassified at town meeting, where it was the meal site manager position was reclassified as assistant, so it was restructured. And so this is essentially a new position that was in the budget. So Pamela Milikangas, and I hope I pronounced it the right way. She has experience with her diploma from the Neshoba Valley Tech in culinary arts. She was at Loaves and Fishes in Devon's for many years, and was a home care assistant as well. So she has that cooking experience with all of those locations. So the Council on Aging Director highly recommends her for the position, and as do I. I met with her as well.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions for the town manager related to this? So I will vocalize somewhat unrelated to this, but in the process of this, something I've shared with the town manager. I know I've said with the board previously that I find our ratification of the town manager's appointments to be equivalent to a rubber stamp. I don't really know why we're doing this, in my opinion, as we don't really have a process to ratify. We don't have a process to deny, not that we need to, but this seems a bit unnecessary, in my opinion, that we go through this, that we should trust the town manager's judgment when it comes to several more positions, including positions like a mill site manager. I don't know if the select board is, I don't personally think that we should be overriding certain roles such as that. I think that should be really routine in the normal performance of the town manager's duties. With that said, I'm very impressed by your ability to read font 5 over there, and I know everyone at home can't see that, but are there?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just as a rebuttal, as I always do, because when you bring this up, first of all, we don't have to take any action, because by charter, if we don't ratify within 14 days, it becomes official. We choose to ratify to expedite that process, so the person's not waiting for 2 weeks. But the power to veto a ratification is meant to be an exception, but we need to have that power in case things come to light that come at the last minute. And it doesn't happen often. It's not designed to happen often. So while it may look like a rubber stamp, just the fact that we can at some point, for reasons that may be brought to us, is an important power of the Board of Selectmen. And the only reason we ratify earlier than just letting it happen is just out of courtesy for the people who are being interviewed and being brought forward by the town manager.
Perhaps at a future meeting, we should discuss a ratification process.
May I add to that, please, and pile on? On this particular issue, I am as firmly connected at the hip with Mr. Alonso as I was the last time we discussed it. You took the words right out of my mouth. It's what we said last time. I completely concur with that, and for all the reasons stated by Mr. Alonso.
Any additional discussion on I'm sorry, who made the motion on this?
No one.
No. Is there a motion to ratify the town manager's appointment of Pamela Millen-Kangas to be the mill site manager?
I would move that we ratify the town manager's appointment of the meal site manager Pamela Milikangas as presented.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on this? No. All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. So please congratulate Pamela on our behalf.
I will. Thank you. And one just announcement that's not on here is the resignation of the Recreation Director, Rob Thompson. That was effective August 25th.
Is that already being, in the process of being advertised?
No, we're reviewing the position description right now.
Okay.
Okay. We're a little early for our 7:30 here. I see that we have a little bit more people have joined us online, so I do want to give this. Is the town manager's report, I haven't seen the length of it. Is it lengthy today?
Not too bad. Just letting everyone in.
Okay. All right. If we can just move to the town manager's report, and then we'll start our meeting with the water district, probably 3 minutes late.
All right.
To the town manager.
All right. I'll start with the announcement of existing vacancies. There are 2 vacancies on the Finance Committee. There are 2 associate vacancies on the Green Communities Committee. There's 1 vacancy on the Historical Commission, 1 vacancy which is a jointly appointed between the Planning Board and the Select Board until the next annual town election for the Planning Board, and 1 associate vacancy for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Anyone interested can find the application forms on the town website and complete them and return them to the town manager's office. And anyone interested in learning more about these positions can contact our office as well at 978-582-4130, extension 144. For current employment opportunities for the town, here are the following employment opportunities. 1 heavy equipment operator position, which is a full-time benefited position. Library assistant, which is a part-time and non-benefited position. Police officer, which is a full-time benefited position. Production technician for public access, which is a part-time benefited position. And van driver for the senior center, which is a part-time non-benefited position. Videographers, which is for public access as well, is a part-time non-benefited position. And these ads can be found on the town website as well under employment opportunities. An update on the Winter Recovery Assistance Program funding that the town received. I had previously reported at the Select Board's meeting on May 3rd that the town received $272,679 in a one-time state funding through the Winter Recovery Assistance Program. Municipalities must spend their RAP, that's the shortened version for that, funding allocation by June 30th, 2023. Any program funds that are left unspent by the state are no longer available for use. Eligible RAP costs include rehabilitation, reconstruction, resurfacing, or preservation of roadways, including sidewalks, bike lanes, and paths, repair or replacement of traffic control devices, signage, guardrails, and storm grates, or road striping or painting. Police detail and traffic control costs are not eligible for reimbursement. Any costs that are not eligible for RAP funding will not be reimbursed and shall be paid by the municipality. RAP funding, a state funding source, is applicable to all federal, state, and local procurement requirements, just like Chapter 90 funding. For example, pavement, roadway rehabilitation, pavement, roadway reconstruction, pavement, roadway resurfacing, pavement, roadway preservation, sidewalk or bike lane repair or reconstruction, traffic control devices, replacement of signage, replacement of guardrails, and storm grates and other drainage features, and road striping and painting. Based on the DPW's director's assessment of our needs, his rough plan is to use the funding as follows: $30,000 for road striping or painting, $167,000 for sidewalk repair or reconstruction, $50,000 for repair or replacement of guardrails, and $25,000 for traffic signal control replacement, which he identified the Whalum electric control device that has been not working for some time. The locations for the sidewalk repairs will include another section of Lancaster Ave from Whiting Street to Rolling Acres, then Highland Ave to Oak Ave to Marshall Pond, and then based on the 2020 Public Rights of Way ADA transition plan that we had done by Beta Group. The director is working on specific locations for the remaining categories, with the exception of the traffic signal controller. Once these are known, I will update the board accordingly. Collaboration with school on facilities and athletics director. I have been communicating with the school superintendent on setting up an internal meet and greet between our new facilities director, their new facilities director, and their new athletics director. And also once we have a new rec director, that person will be brought into that fold. And the plan is that this will be a working group that we collaborate on all facilities and field use and that type of thing. So we have a meet and greet scheduled for this Thursday, an internal one, and at a future date would be open to a broader audience for boards and committees and other relevant groups.
Cross-departmental collaboration is always a preferred sustainable approach. So this is a really good step in the right direction for the community. And professionally, it really is the right way. So, excellent.
In other meetings, events, and announcements, the Lunenburg Business Association is planning on doing a trunk or treat event again this year. They currently have been in touch with the school because they use the school parking lot for that event. And the tentative date is Sunday, October 30th. So if that date changes, I will make that announcement at a future meeting. The Lunenburg Farmers Market is every Sunday until Sunday, September 25th, and the Historical Society building is open during those hours. And the special town meeting warrant is open for submission of articles until 5 p.m. on September 20th, and the special town meeting date is November 15th at 7 p.m. at the middle school, high school.
Thank you to the town manager. Any questions to the town manager from the board?
Yes, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious as on the RAP funding. This may be covered in the pre-qualification regulations and guidelines, but I'm curious do you have to provide any kind of a showing that even if what you want to do is within one of these categories, that it's related to winter damage in some way, or is it just presumed covered if it's one of these things?
I'm sure you have to identify the category that it either a repair or replacement of for that item, but not prove winter damage.
Okay, so you don't have to say like a plow ran into the guardrail, that's why we're
Right.
replacing it. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments for the town manager? Okay, so we're going to go now to our, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
As always, for the report. We're going to move to our 7:30 appointment. Prior to, I want to make a couple comments. So in Lunenburg, we have a water district, and that water district is a separate entity that is not a town department. So the water district has their own elections. They have their own water commissioners. And again, it is a service that is exclusively for the residents of Lunenburg. Well, I shouldn't say exclusively, but it's for the residents of Lunenburg. However, again, they are a separate entity that is not under the umbrella of the regular town governance. So with that, it is very important for the select board and the water district to maintain good dialogue, communication with one another. We recognize the importance of what the water district does, the service that they provide, and to note, the members So we just muted due to a issue that we had with Zoom. So I want to just pick up where we left off and just acknowledging that the Water District is comprised of many respectable members of our community who we value. And I'm specifically looking back now at Mr. Birch, who's a business owner in town, who's part of our fire department here, who also serves in this capacity, really outstanding member of our community. And I just want to highlight Fran as well, although the entire commission really is remarkable. So with that, are we ready to move forward with our joint meeting?
She's launching again, so.
No. Let me get back to.
I think that was our first bombing or
It
attempt
was.
in a select board meeting.
Actually, all new attendees should be muted all the time. I don't know why that setting wasn't set, but
Yeah.
Seemed like they were able to override that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it override it.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I was watching her mute it and they were override it.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know whether to let a new person.
Don't let anyone named Janet back in the meeting.
Well, it could be. I don't know.
All right, with that, Fran, I'm going to invite you to come forward, and whatever other representatives you'd like to speak with you. So, Fran, please introduce yourself, your role with the Water District, and I just want to outline that the intent here tonight is that we're going to have a presentation from the Water District. It's at their request, which we, of course, will always provide space for the Water District. After the Water District, as the Water District's presentation concludes, I will open to the board for questions, comments, and then I will open to the public for questions and comments. This is not a public hearing, however. This is a presentation on behalf of the Water District with tie and bond and attendance. And I need to also note, for full disclosure, that while not directly, tie and bond is performing work for a property that I manage in Worcester at 526 Main. So with that disclosure.
Okay, I'm Fran McNamara, Superintendent of the Lindbergh Water District. We have Ty and Bond, Tom Mahana, and Lou Sirocco going to do a presentation. We kind of want this to be open, so as a presentation's being spoken on, if there's any questions, let's answer them at the time. So if there's a spot and you want clarification or what does he mean or something like that, I'd like you guys to jump right in so everybody's on board and all together on the what they're presenting. So,
Okay.
Tom's going to start out and then he's going to pass on to Lou.
Thank you, Fran. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Mahana. I'm a principal at Ty and Bond. As Fran introduced, I'm also here with Lou Sirocco, who's our senior project manager. And we also have Derek Belanger, who's kind of our lead technical engineer, who's participating remotely, but I promise you he was not the person that just happened. Okay. So as Fran mentioned, that our firm has been hired to assist the Water District with...
Recording in progress.
Continue?
Yes.
Okay. Our firm has been hired by the Water District to assist them with looking into the reactivation and possible treatment for the Hickory Hills well. So this is going to be a little awkward, so I don't know who's controlling the slides, but I'll just say advance, as we go forward. So if they want to move to slide 2, so we have 5 topics that we want to cover tonight as part of our presentation. This is similar to a presentation we gave to the board and members of the public at the Water Commissioners meeting last month. So we wanted to hit on 5 different, or present 5 different topics tonight. And mostly want to highlight the district's need for this well, talk a little bit about the water quality concerns at the Hickory Hills wells, specifically iron, manganese, and PFAS. We're going to look at, talk about some pilot study options that we've been evaluating for treatment of this well. Also give a little bit of an idea of what a full-scale treatment plan would be for this source. And finally, we're going to touch a little bit upon potential impacts or look at what impacts may or may not occur at on the lake itself.
Before we continue, would you mind just giving us a little bit more information about what Tie and Bond does as an organization?
Sure. Ty and Bond, we're a consulting engineering company. We've been around
for over 100 years. We were formed back in 1910, I believe. We're about a medium-sized consulting engineering firm of about approaching 500 staff, located in 13 offices throughout New England in the Northeast. We provide a variety of consulting services. Specifically, Lou and I work specifically in the drinking water aspect, providing consulting engineering to water departments, water districts, municipalities. We also provide services, a variety of services on the engineering side, water, wastewater, stormwater. We do a lot of land use development work. We have an environmental group also that.
I think we need to disconnect from Zoom and just advise all residents to tune in on Facebook Live.
For TV.
I think that's a good idea, Mr. Chair.
On the part of-
If you can unmute me in the booth for the people at home. So I just want to advise the folks at home that what's happening here tonight is our Zoom is getting affected by So we're having a problem on Zoom with our Zoom being intruded by an outsider who's obviously stating obscenities. So what we're doing is we're disconnecting from Zoom for the remainder of the meeting. If you're tuning in, you can tune in on Facebook using our Facebook, the Facebook app, Facebook Live, or if you're tuning in, you can hear me now, you're watching from home. But we are going to disconnect Zoom for the remainder of the meeting. I apologize for that.
Is there any way for people who are watching on Facebook Live, which of course is a feed, but if they have questions, is there any way they can get questions to us?
If they make comments, can't they make comments in the feed? On the, no?
I can transcribe individual ones while I'm looking at it, but I wouldn't be able to effectively, do what I'm doing on the TV.
Well, I can monitor it on my pad here, probably.
If you wouldn't mind.
All right,
Okay,
let me see if I can get on.
Facebook, you're more than welcome to, and you can have people direct questions directly to you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the thing we're not going to be able to do is we're not going to be able to see the shared screen. If you would like to somehow put it on one of these monitors, I'm not sure how you can do that, but I would be happy to direct the cameras to a monitor so that we can see. Or if you do have a paper version of this presentation.
Well, I have it on a stick.
Yeah, I can't put that stick just right on. Yeah.
Not as up to date as that, but
Well, if you had something that you could put up, that I could put the camera onto, is what I could do.
I have a paper.
I have it on my
Yeah, that's
laptop.
very small. I mean, like a diagram.
10 people are watching us on Facebook.
I cannot.
One comment.
I have it on my, that's very small.
That's 10 people are watching us, only 10.
In some of these circumstances, we probably would have been a little bit better prepared for it, but there's no way that we could have anticipated this kind of unfortunate thing happening this evening.
I want to, if Brandon, would you mind coming forward for a moment?
Again?
Just so you can speak. Would it be, I understand that the intent here tonight is to make sure we get maximum public awareness of this, and
That is correct.
this has never happened to us before. I know it's happened to a school committee meeting once, but it's never happened to us. So what's occurring on our side is that although I can see Heather muting whoever this individual is, they can somehow unmute themselves. So we can't control this. Would it make more sense to reschedule this to next week and allow us some time to make sure you can get maximum output on this presentation?
Okay,
I
that's
see a
fine,
no
that's
over
fine.
You're okay with this?
You guys,
I think if that's,
Because I understand the intent here, but it.
yeah, the whole intent is, to get everybody on board and, yeah, get the support. So, yeah, and if it takes to move it next week, that's fine.
All right, and I don't want to
Is that
take
okay
over
with
your
you
meeting,
guys?
but does that work for all of those in your people?
The two gentlemen that were presenting.
That would be next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday
Yeah.
night?
Yeah.
No, we'll push it earlier. We'll do that one at 7:10.
Yeah, as long as these two guys can make it, we're good to go.
So next Tuesday at 7:10. I hate to cave into whoever is doing
That's
this, especially if their intent was to
It could be.
get
Randy.
this result.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think,
Okay.
I think they
Let's move this to
Apologize.
next week, and again, we
Right.
apologize for this
No,
technical
do that.
issue.
thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all.
It's terrible.
People have nothing better to do with
One
their
of the
life. than
one of
figure
the
out.
things we should probably, well, first of all, we should talk to Zoom, because I thought,
I reported all
Do that
this.
too at school
okay.
Like,
The other thing
that's
is,
what pops up when
it's
you were-
always been a little concerning for me now that it's happened.
It's ridiculous.
To the booth.
To the booth.
To the booth?
For those watching at home, we need to pause for about a minute here.
He's talking to them right now.
To the booth, can you put us on mute again, please? To the booth? Can you put us on mute, please? So I want to just announce to those at home a couple of things. So as you can see, over the last 15 minutes or so here, we've had a couple of interruptions on the Zoom meeting with an individual yelling, stating profanities, some kind of inappropriate little video clip as well that they displayed in the Zoom meeting. So we utilize Zoom as the means to project the different presentations for all the folks at home. In the absence of, we made the decision to turn off our Zoom feed for the remainder of this meeting, as what's happening on our end is basically Zoom is getting hacked. That we do not have the ability to mute, which normally we do. Individuals appear to be just showing up into the Zoom meeting. And so as were unable to control that, their solution was to terminate the Zoom meeting. The intent of the water district is to have a public meeting, or rather in a public meeting, to provide public information for public benefit. It's intended to be very informative, and as such, we really need to utilize the screens that we have available to folks at home, as well as anyone that's tuning in via Zoom. So we will be better prepared next week to overcome some of these Zoom challenges today. These were definitely unforeseen. We haven't experienced this on this board to date throughout the pandemic, throughout all of our Zoom experiences. This is definitely something different. So we have to go through different means to be able to show everyone at home what the Water District intends to show. As such, their meeting is rescheduled with us to next Tuesday at 7:10 p.m. So we will be meeting with the Water District, and they will be resuming their presentation, and that will be next Tuesday at 7:10 p.m. And we, again, apologize, although out of our control, for the inconvenience of them and the professionals that were with them, the additional professional staff that were with them tonight, who also were inconvenienced by this Zoom bombing that we just experienced. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
At the pleasure of the board, I do have Facebook Live with the meeting, in case anybody had any questions about anything other than that, obviously, because that will be rescheduled. I don't have to, but if it's up to the board, if you want me to, I'll keep it open in case anybody has questions and they're following on Facebook Live. You can put in a comment if you have a question about something, and I would relay it to the board.
Please do. Okay, and when we were on air but muted, this is what we were discussing. So those that in the room with us were able to hear, but I know those at home were not. We're going to move to old business tonight. Discussion of the 300th Anniversary Committee charge. This is really just an update that Heather was not with us at our last discussion of this. I know Lou, I think, has directed you to where to find that policy.
It's on the drive.
And we will have a more substantial update to review next week on this topic. For under old business, we also have to review and discuss section 2.07, which is our appointment policy. So this is really, I'm working on this policy. I have a couple of questions for the board. And so if we can go into our appointments folder in the drive, one of the things that we were talking about in the format of this was creating 3 different sections of a policy. A lot of the verbiage I think that's already there is pretty good, so my edits so far are kind of reorganizing it a little bit, but having it so that we have appointments, reappointments, and then ad hoc committees, which follows a bit the order of things already with a little bit of a reshuffling. The board was also considering term limits. So what I added into the appointment folder, longest serving volunteers, is a PDF that identifies all the members who are sitting on a committee or have been on a committee since prior to 2010. And so of all the boards and committees, I just want to note who we have and who term limits would affect, and if we want to move forward with that verbiage. At the time, we had a 4-to-1 majority. I am no longer in that majority, so now it is a 3-to-2 majority. With a better understanding of who who would be impacted by the creation of term limits, I no longer support term limits being added into the verbiage. But I wanted to review this with the board to identify if we still have a majority that is in favor of language that supports term limits. While the board considers, to those at home, I won't read the names of the individuals, but I will read the positions. Our longest serving volunteers, the registrars of voters, comprised of 3 individuals, 2 individuals. One has been serving since 1976. One has been serving since 1981. We have 7 conservation commissioners. One has been serving since 1994. We have, I believe, 11 members on the Council of Aging. We have 1 member that's been serving since 2005 and 2 members that have been serving since 2007. Historical Commission is made of 5 individuals. 1 has been serving since 2005. Monty Tech School Committee appointment. We have 1 individual who's been serving since 2009, and the Zoning Board of Appeals has 3 individuals, 5 individuals, I believe, but 3 have been serving for more than 2010, 1 since 1990, 1 since 2003, and another since 2008. how does the board recommend we move forward with term limits? Do we want to carve out exceptions? What is the board's recommendation?
Well, just for the record, I was the one opposed vote, and I still remain opposed. I think we have the ability not to appoint people if we don't want as a board. So not the five of us, but the board, whoever the five people are in the seats. So there is no need for term limits, and I think by artificially putting term limits in, as I stated that night that we discussed it, I think you take a lot of experience out for no reason other than you don't want somebody in there for a long time, and you lose a lot of experience. And if nobody is there to fill it, then you just have a vacancy. If there's somebody else to fill it you think would do a good job, and you want to get somebody new, that's certainly within our purview to do, and we don't need a term limit to do that. So I am still opposed to term limits.
As a counterpoint to that, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm the one who suggested term limits. I think not having term limits leads to stagnation in boards and discourages volunteerism on many of these boards. I think we've seen recently that the citizens of Lunenburg have been more than willing to turn out to fill these positions. And I believe that very positive things can happen as we get new perspective on these different boards. I will say that based on the list of the longest serving members, every single member who served as long as they had is outstanding, in my opinion. It is not any sort of commentary on the work they have been doing. It's just, from my perspective, I think having some more turnover on these boards could be a positive thing.
So, since my position on this has changed, I was previously in favor of term limits, which generally...
Your position has changed because of this list.
That is correct.
That's totally and completely different. See, I think to myself, these the top ones where they're 81 and 76, I would have loved to have stepped onto that role. I don't remember ever seeing it anywhere.
There are no vacancies ever.
This, exactly.
So.
Well, that's, okay, so just for clarity again, because this came up many times in the past, that's not true. There's vacancies every time that there's a renewal. So every time there's an appointment that expires, there is a vacancy.
However, I think Heather understood my intent with my statement, which is that you have the same people seeking reappointment. Mm-hmm. And as has been the case since 1976, that's a lot of cycles in which they've gotten reappointed. So previously when we talked about this, I think that my position was I know I was in favor of it. I know I kept track because I have my notes at home of the majority we were holding together and who was in favor of what. So I think after extracting from the list of who's been serving, I think what stood out to me was something I wasn't aware of before we engaged in the discussion, which is how long have most people been serving on boards? If I would have taken just in my head, I thought that there were more people serving for longer periods of time. After looking at the list, realized there's a lot of turnover on our boards. And so looking at what boards are not having high turnover. Registrars of voters, and I am personally opposed to changing, putting term limits on the registrars of voters. And it's the same thing with zoning boards of appeals. I think our last discussion, I was trying to carve out exceptions of what boards should be exempt. And so I would, and as I started going through this and saying, well, all right, now I'm exempting ZBA, I'm exempting register of voters, I'm exempting council of aging. Are there any other, the Monty Tech School Committee, which I don't ever remember even doing that appointment.
Well, I'm just trying to understand why our school committee people have to run for an election, and that one is an appointment?
Do we know how the Monty Tech School Committee representative is appointed? Because that's not an appointment I recall Lisa making.
It's through the district agreement, I believe.
No, but who does the appointing? You or us? I thought it was us.
Yeah, I believe
it's listed as one of our appointees,
yeah.
But I don't recall reappointing.
I think because it's a multi-year term.
Okay. All right.
I would think that he would have been on.
Lou?
I find myself serving the role of Anthony Kennedy again as the swing vote here.
I think you like to be in the middle.
You know, I really do appreciate, I mean, this is one that's, I'm sort of between the 45-yard lines on. I appreciate both sides on this. However, having had time to think about this since the last time we discussed it, I'm inclined to think that there should not be term limits.
So with that, should there be a suggestion of that members are encouraged to only serve 3 terms in a role? Should there be that suggestion in the appointment process, if not a limit?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My response is if the board doesn't support term limits, then we just keep the status quo as it is and we take it on a case-by-case, year-by-year basis for the appointments.
I'm inclined for a suggestion, but Lou? Heather?
But when the reappointments come up, do we make people aware that there will be a vacancy? Like, do we call it a vacancy before we have it, a reappointment?
We have been, right? We've announced in the paper what terms are expiring, right? Yeah.
Okay.
That hadn't been always the case, by the
Okay.
way. So in the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, we've been doing that.
Okay,
Before
so it
then, we had
wasn't-
not been doing
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And I think that's a fair statement, that we should have been
Yes.
all along.
Yes. Okay.
So, yeah, part of what we had, what my notes reflect that we agreed to was that we would post all positions regardless of if there's an incumbent seeking reappointment.
And how
that-
long do we put that out there? Is
So,
there a time limit, like before the reappointment, that people have to?
so the anticipation, the way that I've written this is April the 1st, I think is the date that I have in there, is April the 1st. I could be wrong.
That would be 3 months.
But it's
3
April
months.
Before they have to be appointed. Right.
I think 2, right? Because we
No,
do
the end of
appointments
June. So April, May, June, so that'd be 3 months. If you did it May.
So it was, it was
March
April
1st.
the 1st that we would publicize all vacancies.
Okay.
And that was also the time we would reach out to those seeking reappointment about why they're seeking reappointment. And with the response due back by, I think it was May 1st. So that way we're posting the vacancies, we're making the public aware, but sounds like we're saying no to term limits. Are we saying no to the suggestion of a three-term limit? Or where are we feeling the suggestion of members are encouraged to only seek
So,
3 terms?
Mr. Chair, if I may, since we're not inclined to require term limits, I think one of the things the board can do is more vigorously solicit volunteers for these positions. Because again, these are not elected positions. These are appointed positions by the select board. So if we have few members contesting these positions or few volunteers contesting these positions, it's hard for us to do anything but reappoint people who come before us. So I think if we're going to keep a policy of no term limits, we should, proactively solicit more volunteers to come forward before us and state who they are. So, for example, we had an associate member of the Conservation Commission who was before us for an appointment back in June, who didn't get the appointment that time. Then someone resigned, and he came before us tonight. And by all accounts, was an outstanding associate member. It's those sorts of things we want to encourage. If that process continues, then I agree the term limits may be a moot point because we're going to continue to have volunteers. But anything we can do to promote new ideas and fresh ideas on these appointed boards that the electorate doesn't have a chance to weigh in on, I think is valuable.
And I would say, and I would support what Mr. Dwyer just said wholeheartedly, and I would also say that in order to, put into the policy what that date is that we have to advertise to make sure it's part of the policy,
Right.
so that we know we give people 3 months to decide what they want to do, that's going to be very helpful. And I think I think all of us in our circles do that already, but whatever we can do to encourage people to come forward. And again, I know on the Conservation Commission meeting, which had more applicants than we had seats, it gets to be, it's an uncomfortable position because you have to choose people, but that's what we have to be more cognizant of, and we have to be aware that if we encourage people, that's going to happen more often, and that's fine, but it does get the turnover, and it does give us the selection of choosing somebody just for the sake that, hey, I think somebody's equally qualified, and I'll go with the newer person who's equally qualified. I mean, that's a good time to do it.
How do we want to write into policy our approach to when we have multiple applicants for, we have more applicants than there are vacancies to fill? So similar to what we have with conservation, where you have, 2 opens or three vacancies and 5 applicants. That, do we want to leave this at the discretion of the board, which is the current policy, or do we want to implement some more formal process by which we're going to evaluate when we have multiple people seeking the same role?
That's when you might want to say term limit. We have 5 people, 2 of them have already served 15 years. Maybe we want the other people to step up.
Well, I think that should be part of the discussion.
Right.
I don't think there should be some calculated that if this happens, you have to do this. I think leave it up to the discretion of the members of the board is perfectly relevant. And if somebody comes up with that case, I think board members should be open to the discussion that is a valid concern.
I think I understand what your comment there, Mr. Alonso. I think what I'm asking is more so to provide clarity to applicants on how we appoint. That is it discretionary, or is there a more formal way that we are going to handle multi-member candidates to a single role? I'm inclined to agree with you, but I'm seeking the feedback of the board if there's any other thoughts on this. I've heard from members of the public feedback from the last process from 2 different members of the public.
What did they say?
That they thought that there should be a clearer process.
Like how
for
we're judging, how we're ranking them? Okay.
How we evaluate multiple
Yeah.
candidates for the.
Oh, and I
for
understand that.
less roles.
I guess I don't understand what they are envisioning as a more formal process. I mean, it's okay to say, I wish I had more formal process, but without any kind of tangible suggestion, what does that mean?
Do they want us to have a rubric? A ranking rubric or something like that?
It was not a public comment, so I'm just relaying the concern, but there wasn't a proposal other than I see what you're saying, because I think I think my question was like a ranked choice kind of sort of thing.
Right.
But
So, one of my observations that we've seen on the Conservation Commission, as an example, is they instituted just a few years ago an informal associate member policy. I think having an associate member policy on some of these boards where we're getting applicants, maybe if the board's in favor, may be valuable, because I think it does a couple things. One, it trains that next line of people coming forward, which is very valuable, gives them experience so they don't step in completely ignorant of the system. And 2, I think it can make members who volunteered for a long time more comfortable that, hey, if I step down, I have Lou over here who can step up and take my position. So I think that may be a valuable thing for our appointed boards to consider and weigh in on if they think that may add value. It may not add value to all of them, but some of them it might be very useful.
do we want by policy to show preference to associate members?
Personally, I think the perfect example was tonight. I mean, Mr. Tremblay was, by all accounts, extremely active, and I think that can speak volumes to us. So whether it's a preference, I think a little bit is determined based on their performance in that position.
Like, do they show up at meetings?
Right.
So once again, I would assume.
They might not.
I would assume that, using tonight's example, that if somebody's been a member and they've gone on the sidewalks and they've done the work and they've done all the work that a member would do, we wouldn't we shouldn't have to formalize that they would rank higher, that would be a plus for them. You would think that if 5, fair board members sitting on this board, that we would all come to that conclusion that is a very positive thing. I don't think we have to formalize that into any, okay, that gives a 5, or we just judge on numeric scale. I would think that would just weigh into everybody's thought process in their evaluation.
Okay. Those were my only questions. I think I will be fully prepared next week to present the updated policy for the board's editing. Because I'm not a fan of presenting and approving right away, so.
One more thing, if I could, Mr. Chair, as part of this whole discussion, I believe last time one concern was how do we handle, I'm not advocating one way or another, I'm just saying it was a point of discussion about whether or not people for reappointment have a separate or the same hearing that new candidates for a position have.
Where we left off, and according to the notes that I have, was that it was the same single process for both.
Right.
But that it would be 2 different forms. That we'd have a volunteer application, and that would be for those seeking appointment for the time. And then we have a reappointment volunteer application for those seeking reappointment, and that allows them to expand in different areas.
Okay, yeah, and one of the things we were grappling with on that was, I mean, it's still something I think we have to deal with, but I am for that process, that it's everybody's on the same plane, it's a mashup, it's just because there's an incumbent in there. But the concern that some people might be more or less inclined to step forward if they know there's an incumbent. Now, I would think that if they're following along enough, they would just know that, but they might not be. And so I think we've had a couple of instances where people said, well, if I knew there was an incumbent, I wouldn't have tried it. So I don't know. I still think we come down on the side of doing the mashup single hearing, but I don't know if we want some kind of a patch for that or how we deal with that.
Yeah, where we left on that, and correct me if the majority thinks I'm wrong in this, but where we left on that was that, again, it would be a single meeting, that we would not advertise, that we would note the vacancies prior to hearing back from those seeking reappointment, so that the advertisement does not note if there's an incumbent seeking reappointment to the position, so that way we're more fair on the front side, and then same thing on the appointment process, that it will be noted that there's an incumbent seeking reappointment during the meeting, but that wouldn't be advertised prior to.
And also, I mean, on the agenda, and certainly it's a matter of public record, that who all is seeking a certain position, and I mean, somebody doing their homework could ascertain. I mean,
and I think it's a common question.
There's another person on there, it's incumbent, so.
It's a common question that Elaine has noted, that when someone is seeking an appointment, that sometimes they do ask, is anyone else going for the same seat? But that usually is the interim appointments that happen like today, outside of the annual appointment process.
Okay.
And do you know anything different than what I just said? No? Okay.
All right.
All right, so I think we will, thank you for that help on those areas, and I will be able to finalize that draft and get it to you for next week.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Current business tonight. We have review of the special town meeting warrant articles. Let's see, we do have the folder in the drive.
Only 3
Not a
at this
folder.
moment.
Okay.
Just a document.
2 are our typical articles for budget adjustment article for the current year's fiscal year, and previous unpaid bills is the second article. And third, we're expecting to finalize the collective bargaining agreement with the police union. So that's the third article
Okay.
at this time.
I know we will get a lot more.
Pretty
Yes.
standard.
Between now and the 20th of the month.
Yes.
Are there any questions to the town manager regarding those initial 3 articles identified as A, B, and C? No. All right, we have minutes.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I noted when I saw the agenda item to release the executive session minutes of these, even though they were 6 years ago, I did not see anything to review. They're in
I want
a,
to table that.
Yes.
until-
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yep. Can, as a matter of process, to the town manager or to Mr. Alonso as a former chair of the select board, as a matter of process, can we review the minutes after the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know we can't really leave with them, but, okay.
You mean read through them after the
Yes.
meeting?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I would assume that the answer is yes, but I just want to clarify. I am in favor of the same, that although we did put this on here, I was hoping that they would show up in the Google Drive, that I realized that they can't show up in the Google
Right.
Drive, and that there was no way to review them prior to today.
so if we don't have time to do them tonight, if they could be available in, say, selectman's office during the week,
Yeah.
that would be great. So we can just table that till next week.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of tabling for 2 weeks.
2 weeks so that we all have enough
Okay.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to table the release of those executive session minutes. And these go back to March 24th, 2015, April 21st, 2015, May 12th, 2015, December 15th, 2015, and January the 5th of 2016. All right. We have minutes from August the 9th. Are there any requests to modify, changes, or is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes of August 9th, 2022 as presented.
Okay,
Second.
the motion is seconded. Any additional discussion on this? All right, as many as are in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. I have to withdraw from that aye, although I know I can. Those opposed, no or nay. And abstentions, I abstain as I was not present at that meeting. So the motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. All right, so we do have as well here tonight I don't see any warrants, but we do have some things to sign. So this is the approval of the special license for St. Boniface. We have blue. And this is as the board voted tonight. We're all signing the peach-looking page.
Just one, right?
Got a full signature.
That's the.
Yep. All right, we're going to send a thanks to Mr. Tanner Cole for his service to the community, and as he resigned from the planning board, and then we have the minutes that will be kept at the town manager's office for the next 2 weeks for members of the board to review those executive session minutes prior to release. Do we have any action items this evening?
I gave mine earlier.
So I have one. We received a communication between meetings from a resident who expressed concern about the pavement management plan, and I did respond to the resident to advise them of what has happened, and so I suppose I will relay to the public and then also note what the action item is. So the response just indicated that we have a pavement, Lunenburg does an exceptional job of maintaining its roads. I didn't note that in the email, but we do, and we have a pavement management plan. And what happened this year, I think everyone's pretty much aware of it, is that we moved forward with the pavement management plan, and we happen to be lose a DPW director, hire a new DPW director, and what was lost in that in-between time was the line striping contract and scheduling. And so that then did not occur with our previous DPW director. It occurred with our new and current DPW director. The challenges that they are facing is that the paving happened at the end of June, beginning of July time period, and the expectation was that line striping would have happened within approximately 4 weeks. Here we are a couple months later, it hasn't happened. The reality is that we do have a contract with a vendor to perform this service. It is taking longer than all of us expected to get this work done, based on the procurement process we have to go through to secure the line striping vendor. and then their scheduling. We are really at their. There's a lot of other work that is already scheduled, so we are kind of in the queue here to get work done. So I did relay back to the resident that we appreciate and share their concerns, that we do understand that this is not the process that should have followed. You know, we should never go months without roads being properly lined. Nonetheless, we are in that situation, and as a general review, we will be in the coming months just reviewing the upcoming pavement management plan for next year and just getting an update from the town manager, DPW director on how they plan on executing that plan. Do you have any additional comments to offer that I haven't already said?
I want to separate out the pavement management plan update from the road striping, two different
They are.
issues. We are having a problem with our contractor for getting the line striping and markings done. The DPW director has been persistently contacting the contractor and keep getting that message about being delayed. So we are looking at an alternative if through contract administration to see if we can go with another vendor. Regarding pavement management, we're in our last year of the pavement management plan, so I don't want to say that we don't currently have one. We're updating one for the next as this one ends, and that is currently in progress with beta group.
And is the line, I always got the impression that line painting wasn't part of that process, like the paving and doing everything. It was really always treated as something separate, where I would love to see it as part of that process. So when we bid it, that we engage, if it's the same company doing the paving and they have a subcontractor, or we engage our own subcontractor, but when we do the paving, we know the schedule so they can come and stripe it.
And that's the plan going forward the
good.
next time we go out to bid
Good.
for road materials.
Yeah.
Is to bundle that
Good.
together.
Perfect.
Instead of it being two separate. So hopefully I explained that correctly to the public here tonight and wasn't confusing. Do we have any additional action items for the town manager? Committee reports.
The school committee's had several meetings
Yes.
since last you went. Did we receive anything from them yet? They will be writing and drafting a letter.
They did.
Did we get it?
Did that come to me or did it come?
I didn't receive.
Did you get
I'm
it?
gonna double check. I'm aware.
Regards to funding sidewalks?
So I did not receive the actual communication. However, I'm aware that there is a communication that will be coming our way, and maybe I did get this and I just don't remember actually reading it. So I don't want to speak out of turn.
It was just last Wednesday, so maybe she
I didn't
hasn't
get it.
drafted it yet. And they've encouraged all the people watching to
I saw.
address us and encourage us to fund sidewalks so that all the students that need to walk to school can walk to school safely
Yeah.
from a mile and a half away.
If we were to put out the bid now, you'd be ready for next year,
You
I'm
think?
assuming. Yeah. So,
If we have the money, if we have the funds, and there's a lot of ifs here, and if that was
And
a high
also,
priority.
part of the road that needs to be paved is Mass Ave, and that is not something that we would be able to do. That's a state road. So they were gonna write a letter to legislatures to get that part done. Because St. Boniface is only 0.6 miles away from the school. So you'd go all the way to St. Boniface and then further to hit that 1.5 miles that kids will have to walk to school every day to Lunenburg if you live outside of that, inside of that area.
So just for clarification, this is in response to, I know I attended their meeting.
Yep.
I vocalized the concerns we had about their busing policy. They had a meeting to discuss the busing policy. And so in that meeting, what you're relaying is that one of their solutions was that the select board needs to, and our legislators need to provide funding for
Correct.
1.5 miles of sidewalks
Correct.
around the vicinity of
Now,
schools.
it was pointed out during the meeting by Mr. Beardmore that Northfield is a scenic road. Not sure that you're going to be able to put sidewalks on Northfield for the 1.5 miles all the way down that they would want people to walk.
I did relay to some members of the school committee that Whalum is a far denser area of town, and that if we're having a cart blanche or open conversation, however
About
wants the wrong
sidewalk.
phrase, but we're having an open conversation about sidewalks. That priority for me would be Whalum prior to going over sparsely populated sections of Lunenburg.
Right. Well,
Nonetheless.
the
Okay.
good news is after people brought it to her attention, after it was brought to the attention of the select board, they didn't only had 3 people write them emails about this concern until the select board brought it up. Then they had 281 people with needs for the buses. They were able to place 205 of the 214 requests. 67 of them were duplicates. They had 214 requests for transportation. They were able to place 205, and 9 students were supposed to be placed by this week.
So how many does that leave? How many people are now affected by this policy? How many students?
Now, none. Now, they bust everybody that had concerns.
Oh, they got, okay.
They got them all on buses.
Oh, okay.
The buses this year cost
Excellent.
$146,000 each. So they were trying to figure out if they were going to need more busing next year, how much that would cost, and if they were going to have to bus everybody, because how is it even a high schooler to walk 1.5 miles down Mass Ave, doesn't matter how old you are, that's a far walk in the winter and when it's pouring out. It doesn't really matter what age you are.
Yeah, I want to be clear that I am not against students walking to school, certainly of a certain age.
Right.
If it can be done safely.
Correct.
The only thing I care about is that it's done safely.
Right.
Which, again, it was pointed out, we cannot do. Now, I'm for trying to fund sidewalks
yeah.
of a certain kind that would help them, that would help that. But I mean, we need to have that first. It's definitely we got to have that. You don't want to put the horse before the cart here.
Right. So the policy that they keep talking about, they say it's a new policy, but I can't find the new version of the policy they're talking about. The policy that I see online that they say was updated it still refers to the date as April of 2005. So I believe they're going to be reviewing and tweaking the policy in the coming days. But they did talk about the opening of school, and everybody's very happy that there are no real COVID restrictions and things are going well. And sports are starting, and the grass fields look great, but they might not look that well after everybody's been on them. And yeah, but so they did have other things to say. Mrs. Champagne was on there. All the principals got on and said everything was going well.
Good.
Yeah, they did have a little discussion about having a joint meeting with Finance Committee because they were asked to do that. I don't know where that landed because there was a lot of discussion about the timing of this meeting. They would have all the data that they needed to bring to Finance Committee, so I'm not sure where they left off on that or if they even decided when they would have that. So, but Mr. Beardmore brings a lot of discussion to the table.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Much discussion
Yep.
is needed.
Yep. So, they have another meeting tomorrow. That'll be 4 in a row.
Any other committee reports?
I have not reviewed the Finance Committee meeting of last Thursday. I will.
So Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee met, when was it? Last Monday of August, so that's last Monday. All right, so the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee met last Monday, and at the meeting, it was a really productive meeting. A couple things were decided. One was that we formalized the position paper I noted earlier. So based on a really good review, I think, of the long-term storage needs as identified earlier in the meeting, the conclusion was that the letter that was provided indicated several findings that the committee has come up with. Those findings, and it's always good for me to actually reference this, so let me just go ahead and pull up this email so that way I'm making very accurate references here. And send it to you, Heather, so I'll see. I send you a lot of emails, huh? So there were several findings from the committee. The first was that a remodel of any town building or the construction of a new building will require space for storage. Second finding was that current remodel build estimates are between $275 and $350 a square foot. Third finding was that identifying that operational file storage are those files needed for kind of day-to-day needs of an individual and are typically files created within 24 months, that long-term storage of those files required to be stored for a certain duration of time as required by statute or by law, and also encompasses those files that are more than 2 years old. And the last finding was that the cost of digitization and off-site storage, such as Iron Mountain or even public safety building, is far lower than the cost of constructing, remodeling, and maintaining a space for long-term storage. And that we can't do it anywhere near as cheaply as everyone can digitize or store off-site. And so the committee decisions were that we will minimize long-term storage and all permutations of plans, and that we're encouraging school and town departments to digitize for long-term record storage. And then we encourage response by the end of September from the town manager and the superintendent that says that identifies what their storage needs are, that for things that cannot be digitized or stored offsite, and then also clarity on why they cannot be digitized or stored offsite, if that makes sense. So that was one of the things the committee did during the meeting, and I think that will also help as we move forward, give some clarity to these plans. That position paper, it's a one-page position, is also going to be shared on social media so that we were keeping the public aware of how we're progressing along the way. The other big step in the meeting was that what we did over the summer, we did take somewhat of a break because of conflicts and scheduling issues over the summer. But at the very beginning, I mentioned previously that we went through the the Vertex reports, everything that we have, previous town meetings, this happened at previous meetings, to identify what the identified needs for all these buildings were, what remains outstanding. We came to the conclusion that everything that remains will be addressed as part of a change in use. Most of what's left are not things that should be individually handled if you're going to be changing use. So that's where we are at in that review. And then we also did this exercise, we called it, I kind of used Peter Beardmore's wording, called it King for a Day or Queen for a Day. That if you were in charge of Lunenburg, what would you do with all these buildings? Given all the information, most of us have been in this committee for years, given all the information we have, what would we do? At the last meeting, what we did was we took all of those concepts and ideas and we came up with three plans. So 3 permutations of what we can do to address all of town buildings. So our next meeting, prior to that meeting, everyone only had summaries of what everyone else wrote, because me being the chair, everyone submitted it to me and I only provided a summary. After our last meeting, I provided everyone with everyone's comments. So full reports of what everyone submitted for their King for a Day, Queen for a Day scenarios. That way everyone has all that more in, because some of those were like 2 pages long or 3 pages long from members. So really in-depth perspectives. And so our next meeting that we have on the 19th, I believe it's the 19th, it's in 2 weeks from yesterday. The plan is to take another look at those 3 ideas and finalize them and come up with a better kind of plan. And how we've already naturally done this is they're different as the board required or requested, required that they're different cost. They're all in the different cost categories, and only one of the plans does include utilizing 30 School Street. 2 of the plans do not. So what I expect the Municipal Building Design Committee to do over the next couple of meetings is to take those permutations, really finalize them, come up with more verbiage around the pros and cons of each, the cost implications of each, and then we'll be seeking to meet with the select board at some point in October to provide a detailed update.
Sounds great.
It was a lot of good progress given the amount of meetings we've had over the summer just to get to that point in the conversation. So I think it was a very, very healthy, productive meeting. The only other update I have is for the library. So the library did not meet. However, I had several conversations with Muir and the library director, with Harry, the chairman of the library trustees. So, and also with the town manager. And the update here is really minimal. It's that, as we're all aware, the library, by town meeting vote, would like to invest the funds dedicated to them, have more control over the investment of the trust funds that have been set aside or donated for the use of the library. That one of what they're working through now is do we ever get confirmation that the governor signed off on the legislation, special legislation?
No confirmation, just that it was on his desk.
Yeah, so we did hear that finally, after I think 2 years, it made it to the governor's desk. It was there for signature. And then the real questions here are, how do they actually come up with what's the plan? So Heather and Mylene and Muir, really Heather though and Mylene, came up with a really good plan for how this will work, how it will be implemented. Everyone on the library side is on board with that. The remaining question is, of the funds that have been donated to the town, some of those donations came with restrictions on what you can use the money for. The problem is that of the 14 donations that the town received, we only have original paperwork on 2 of them. And so there's been an exhaustive, as per the library, there was an exhaustive research effort to identify a lot of those source documents that say what the donation is supposed to be used for. But unfortunately, at this point, they've only identified 2 of those source documents. So there's a question to town council about the absence of the remainder. That if you don't have source documents that identify what the donation was for, can you use those funds unrestricted, or are they restricted because you don't have clarity? And so that's something that Heather is working with the town council to get an answer to. And so, that's really what's been happening with the library. They're really excited about the Friday expansion and the new school year, because that means the kids come back. So, or they stay for the summer. A lot of them do, but they get obviously a huge influx of children once the school year begins. And those are the 2 updates I have. And I apologize that I didn't have that pre-plan in my head to make it more succinct. So, but no one ever said verbosity was not a problem. Any other committee reports? All right, our next meeting is next Tuesday. As we identified, we will be meeting with the Water District at that meeting. We're also going to be reviewing some policies on environmental policies. I will be proposing those to the board next week, not for approval, but for your review and edits and comments. I think it's necessary to float them through a lot of other people first. So those will be presented to the board next week. We'll also have the discussion of the 300th anniversary next week as well. And then coming up on the 20th of the month, I believe that's when we're meeting with the joint meeting with the Finance Committee.
Correct.
For several topics. Any public comments this evening from the public? And again, I want to apologize.
I see no comments on the Facebook page.
All right. And I just want to apologize again to those at home who heard those obscenities earlier today. It's not representative of how our meetings should be working, and it was a technological glitch, and we are looking to get that resolved for next meeting. Any public comments this evening from the town manager?
None.
Happy anniversary.
One day.
And any public comments from the board this evening? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Nobody wants to adjourn, huh? I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the ayes have it. We are adjourned at, looks like 8:40 p.m. And to those at home,